So let's start with how autism is viewed in India. We have several listener questions that I'll be inserting throughout this interview. And this one is actually from Tay Ruiz. They want to know what's the acceptance like in India with people with autism?
So with the awareness, I would start with like the question you asked me, awareness, it varies. So we've come a long way in the metropolitan cities and the smaller cities also, the awareness is there. But for the acceptance, then again it varies. I mean, parents still want to hide, and in the rural areas and the villages, because India is a very big country, so we have you know we have small cities also, and but somewhere in the rural villages still, people still think that this is something like, I don't know how to say it, but something like black magic or something like that. But in the cities, the acceptance is there, the awareness is there, what is autism spectrum disorder, and parents, educated parents especially, really want to help their child. So it really varies, the acceptance and the awareness. It has started coming in homes especially and in the community, but it has a long way to go. It has a long way to go yet.
This is another listener question. What is the diagnostic criteria of autism in India?
So if I talk about the diagnosis, I mean, not even, I would say, like a decade ago, children were usually diagnosed as PDD, NOS if they were high functioning or, intellectual disabled. So my son, who's 21 years old, has a diagnosis or disability certificate in the name of multiple disability. And now, of course, the medical professionals are aware of, but we're still using very old assessment checklists like cars, something, or not too sure of what are they using right now currently. But in India, we do not have any of our own checklist formed. We are forming. We are, we're all getting onto it, like what ecologically or culturally is more valid to us. But somehow we are all taking the checklist assessment tools from the Western countries. So that is how, as I said, like, the diagnosis also varies, because if you are into the rural areas, probably the diagnosis will come as the intellectual disability and not as autism spectrum disorder.
Mm, okay.
But medical professionals like doctors, pediatricians, psychologists are very well aware. If they reach out to them, they are able to diagnose them with the autism spectrum disorder. It is coming. As I said, like, we're not that bad as we were about 10 years back, but it has started, and it has to, continue to be, to say like, oh, we're good with the diagnosis, we have everything, and it's like there are no concerns, and in it we do have concerns.
Hmm. Was there something that happened 10 years ago to kind of propel this awareness?
I think parents were the key factors, like where we realize that our children have autism spectrum, is, they have this diagnosis. So why shouldn't we get the diagnosis of such? And also the certain acts came, like National Trust Act, and then the revised Person with Disability Act came, where the clear, there was a mention, they mentioned about autism spectrum disorders also. So I think the government became aware of, and then once then everything is, we more aware of, the diagnosis is also comes in the medical hospitals and everywhere. People need to work
Hmm.
for that. But yeah, the start, it came from was, I what I believe is in from the parents, because they wanted the diagnosis as the autism spectrum disorder.
Yeah. This kind of ties into the next listener question from Shruti. So they're asking if the parent community in India can influence the government to start providing funding for essential families because, there's often late intervention because of late diagnosis. And so they want to know if there can be some kind of education to consider early intervention for kids who have a diagnosis of autism?
So, in the medical hospital, government medical hospitals, there is a provision of early intervention, play therapies, and all those things. But as of like the question is like parent community can influence. There are under National Trust Act, there is a probability that you can apply for the funding, grant, and all. But to get any kind of grants from the government is also it requires a lot of paperwork, and it's a continuous process, and a very a big effort, I would say, because if you're passionate and you want to work towards it, and and it's not that easy that you just apply the paperwork and you get it. You have to follow up, you have to continuously do all that, and I do not know how much time will it take. So if we're talking about the early intervention, it has to start as early as possible, and most of the parents would give up halfway, and certain NGOs are also applying for this kind of fund. But again, I think the government part, when we talk about, it's not that easy to get anything.
Hmm.
It takes a lot of effort, and it's better to do, whatever resources you have, to start with something on your own, and then in that process, if you can get some kind of grants, that's like great. But do not do not keep waiting for the grants to come, because you really do not know when it comes and how much it comes and how much is sanctioned and what would you get, whether it gets sanctioned. There's like too many questions attached to it.
So are families paying out of pocket?
Everyone is paying from packet, but we do have some government schools. But again, I mean, I'm not too sure, but they're not the practices that we want to avail for our children, are not standardized or are not the benchmark that we would like to send. So every parent whosoever has like little money would like to send them to some therapist or pay from their pockets and get the services, rather than sending to the government medical hospitals or therapists.
Hmm. So, what services are available for families from the point of diagnosis until adulthood?
So for the diagnosis, we need to actually go reach out to the government medical hospitals for us to get a certified diagnosis. The standalone practitioners like psychologists and all, even if they write, you don't get the disability certificate. So it's not that and such the diagnosis, I think many parents, when the kid is too small, maybe they feel that okay, maybe my child will come out of this autism spectrum disorder, so I don't want to get my child labeled, or for whatever reasons they don't even get it diagnosed at very young age from the government medical hospitals. So that's part of the diagnosis. Like if you want a diagnosis by and a certification, then you need to go to a government medical hospital. Otherwise, the diagnoses are available with the pediatricians, and on the paper they would, their prescription, they would say that the child falls under autism spectrum disorder. And then of course, like I as I said, like the very big government medical hospitals will have psychologists, will have neurologists, will have psychiatrists, and may have some kind of some people like play therapist or person, but not exactly, I would say, like they would have some BCBAs or um, special educator who would really understand the needs of a child with autism spectrum disorder. With intellectual disability, it's been going on since long, so they are able to take cater to their needs. But with autism spectrum disorders, I'm not too confident about it. Or probably in different parts of India, there may be available, but in smaller cities, I don't see that happening. And
Mm.
and also probably in the villages also it's not there. So yes, of course, when I say there are institutes, and mostly what I see is there are standalone institutions, like when one person opens a therapy center and is providing services. So the services, the quality of the services would really vary, because it is not standardized by the government, like, okay, this is what you all need. We all have to get registered through Rehabilitation Council of India. But again, the the, like in US, how it is standardized, the benchmarking, it's not there in India. So anyone, whosoever is providing the services, is there, and you have to, by the word of mouth, or someone like, oh, that my son really got well and this person is fine and has more passion. So it really varies. There's nothing like, I would say, standardized services overall in India, because it's, as I shared earlier, it's a very big country with 22 official languages. It varies. So if you go to the different part of India, there would be different people working, and their way would be different. So somewhere it would vary, and you really don't know what is happening in the other part of India. For us, well, like for SOREM, I think we had a chance to understand what is the global benchmark through Global Autism, and this was like the best practices found in the Western countries. So we were able to definitely follow those practices. But I'm and there would be certain institutes, but majorly in metropolitan cities. But if I talk about the smaller cities, I mean, I'm not too sure of that, the services that they're providing.
You've been watching Autism Knows No Borders. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Also, we'd love to hear from you, so let us know what you think in the comments section. Click here to watch this interview in its entirety. You can also find us on your favorite podcast app. Tune in each week for engaging conversations of how people across the globe are inspiring change and building community. Thanks for watching. Take care.